never thought I'd find myself waist-deep in the frigid Pacific at midnight, with no clue how I got there. But that's exactly where I was, shivering and disoriented, as the waves lapped at my chest and the moonlight cast eerie shadows on the beach. How did this happen? One minute I was snug in my tent, and the next, well, that's where things get fuzzy. It all started earlier that evening. I'd set up camp on a secluded stretch of the Oregon coast, relishing the solitude after days of hiking. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. I remember thinking, this is why I do this. This moment right here. As darkness fell, I zipped myself into my sleeping bag, the sound of crashing waves lulling me to sleep. But sometime in the dead of night, I stirred. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but then I heard it. A haunting melody carried on the breeze. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Soft and alluring, yet somehow wrong. I tried to ignore it, to burrow deeper into my sleeping bag, but the song wormed its way into my brain. Before I knew what was happening, I was unzipping the tent, my bare feet sinking into the cool sand. The singing grew louder, more insistent. I had to find its source. That's the last thing I remember clearly. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the ocean, waves crashing against my body, the taste of salt on my lips. The singing had stopped, leaving only the sound of my chattering teeth and pounding heart. Panic set in as I stumbled back towards shore, my legs leaden and clumsy. As I reached the beach, something caught my eye in the moonlight. Footprints, dozens of them, circling where I'd been standing in the water. But they weren't mine. They were too small, too delicate. My blood ran cold. I wasn't alone out here. I sprinted back to my campsite, sand flying behind me. My tent was still there, thankfully, but something was off. The zipper was closed. Hadn't I left it open? And there, just beyond the tent, more of those small footprints. With trembling hands, I grabbed my flashlight and swept the beam across the beach. Nothing. No movement. No sign of whoever or whatever had lured me into the ocean. But I could feel eyes on me, watching from the shadows. I didn't sleep a wink that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that ethereal singing. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, I packed up camp faster than I ever had before. I needed to get out of there, put as much distance between myself and this beach as possible. But even as I hiked away, my mind raced. What had happened last night? Was it all just a vivid dream brought on by exhaustion? Or had I encountered something otherworldly? I've been back home for weeks now, but I still can't shake the memory of that night. Sometimes, when I'm drifting off to sleep, I swear I can hear that haunting melody again. And for a split second, I feel the pull of the ocean, calling me back to its depths. I don't know if I'll ever return to that stretch of coastline. Part of me is desperate to unravel the mystery, to prove to myself that there's a logical explanation for what happened. But another part, a primal instinctive part, knows that some questions are better left unanswered. All I know is this: the next time I hear singing on the wind, I'm keeping my tent zipped tight. I never expected my Florida beach vacation to turn into a nightmare. The sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks, when I noticed something odd. A patch of water near the shore looked wrong. It wasn't the usual crystal blue, but a deep, unsettling red. My curiosity got the better of me, and I inched closer to the water's edge. That's when I saw them, strange symbols etched into the sand, leading away from the crimson tide. They looked ancient, almost like hieroglyphs, but nothing I'd ever seen before. My heart started racing. What was going on here? I followed the trail, my feet sinking into the cool sand with each step. Symbols led me away from the beach and towards a cluster of weathered rocks. As I got closer, I realized they weren't just rocks. There was an opening. Cave, hidden from view unless you knew exactly where to look. I hesitated at the entrance. Every instinct told me to turn back, to forget what I'd seen and enjoy the rest of my vacation. But something pulled me forward, a force I couldn't explain. I took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness. The air inside was thick and damp, with a salty tang that clung to the back of my throat. I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to illuminate the way. The beam caught something on the cave wall. More symbols, carved into the rock itself. They seemed to pulse with an eerie, reddish glow. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echoing off the walls. I pressed on, deeper into the cave. The passage narrowed, and I had to duck to avoid hitting my head on the low ceiling. That's when I saw it. A small chamber, lit by flickering candlelight. The scene before me made my blood run cold. Scattered around the room were objects that could only be described as ritual items. A crude altar stood in the center, stained with what looked horribly like dried blood. Bones, some animal, some disturbingly human-looking, were arranged in intricate patterns on the floor. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there frozen in terror. But as I turned to flee, I heard it. A low, guttural sound coming from the shadows at the back of the chamber. Something was in here with me, something alive. My breath caught in my throat as a figure emerged from the darkness. It was... I don't even know how to describe it. Part human, part something else entirely. Its skin was mottled and scaly, with a sickly red hue that matched the water I'd seen earlier. Its eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of ancient primal fear wash over me. I didn't think. I just ran. Stumbling through the narrow passage, scraping my arms and legs on the rough stone walls. I could hear it behind me, its labored breathing and the sound of claws scraping against rock. The cave entrance seemed miles away, but finally I burst out onto the beach. The sun had set completely now, leaving only the pale moonlight to guide me. I ran until my lungs burned, not daring to look back. When I finally collapsed on the sand, gasping for air, the beach was deserted. There was no sign of the creature, no evidence of what I'd seen in that cave. For days after, I tried to convince myself it had been a hallucination, maybe brought on by dehydration or too much sun, but I couldn't shake the memory of those glowing symbols, the altar, the thing I'd encountered. I left Florida early, cutting my vacation short. Now, back home, I can't stop thinking about what I saw. Was it some ancient ritual site, a forgotten cult, or something even more sinister? I've scoured the internet for information on red tides and mysterious caves in Florida, but nothing comes close to explaining my experience. Sometimes, late at night, I swear I can still hear that guttural breathing, and when I close my eyes, I see those symbols etched against my eyelids, pulsing with that otherworldly red glow. I don't know if I'll ever understand what happened that day, but one thing's for certain: I'll never look at the ocean the same way again. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am. It was supposed to be a fun camping trip with my college buddies. Just us, the beach, and a whole lot of beer. But what happened that night, it still gives me chills. We'd found this secluded little cove on the North Carolina coast. Perfect spot, we thought. No crowds, no rules, just us and the waves. As we set up camp, the sun was sinking into the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, peaceful even, if only we'd known what was coming. Night fell, and we gathered around the campfire, trading stories and passing around drinks. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was our background music. It was all so normal, you know, just a bunch of friends having a good time, but then I saw him. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A figure, barely visible in the moonlight, walking along the shoreline. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but he was still there. A man soaking wet from head to toe, stumbling along the beach. "Hey guys," I said, my voice shaking a little. "Do you see that?" My friends turned to look, and I could feel the mood shift instantly. We all saw him now, this mysterious figure wandering aimlessly. "What's he saying?" whispered Sarah, her eyes wide with fear. I strained my ears, trying to make out the words. It was like a mumble, a constant stream of unintelligible sounds. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Jake, always the brave one, stood up. "Let's go check it out," he said, grabbing a flashlight. We approached cautiously, calling out to the man. But as we got closer, something strange happened. He just vanished. One second he was there, and the next, gone. Like he'd never existed at all. We searched the beach for hours but found nothing. No footprints, no sign that anyone had been there besides us. It was like we'd all shared the same hallucination. Sleep didn't come easy that night. We huddled in our tents, jumping at every sound. The next morning we packed up quickly, eager to leave this place behind. On our way out, we stopped at a local diner for breakfast. That's when we overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. "Yeah, it's been exactly a year since that poor soul drowned," an old-timer was saying. "Right there in that cove. They never found the body." I felt the color drain from my face. My friends and I exchanged looks of disbelief and horror. Could it be? The man we saw. Was he? We left town in a hurry after that, each lost in our own thoughts. I've tried to rationalize it since then. Maybe it was just our imaginations running wild, fueled by ghost stories and too much alcohol. But deep down, I know what I saw. What we all saw. And sometimes on quiet nights, I can still hear that unintelligible muttering, carried on the wind. It's a reminder that there are things in this world we can't explain, mysteries that linger long after we think they're buried. I don't go camping much anymore, and I certainly don't visit secluded beaches. Some things are better left undisturbed, some stories better left untold. But this one needed to be shared. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the line between our world and the next isn't as clear as we'd like to believe. So the next time you're walking along a beach at night and you see a figure in the distance, maybe think twice before you approach. You never know who or what might be wandering the shoreline, trapped between two worlds, forever seeking a way home. I never thought I'd be telling this story. It's the kind of tale that sends chills down your spine, the kind you'd hear around a campfire on a dark night. But this is real. And it all started with a simple family trip to the beach. We were visiting Moonstone Beach in California, a place known for its rugged beauty and crashing waves. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I noticed something odd. There, silhouetted against the fading light, was an old lifeguard chair, and perched atop it, a figure sat motionless, watching the sea. I nudged my husband, pointing it out. "Look," I whispered. "I didn't know they still had lifeguards out this late." He squinted, then shook his head. "That's weird. I could have sworn I read that they decommissioned that tower years ago." A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off. Surely we were just mistaken. Our kids were splashing in the shallows, their laughter carried on the salty breeze. Everything felt perfect, idyllic even. How could I have known that in mere moments, our world would shatter? It was our youngest, Lily, who waved first. Her little arm shot up, greeting the distant figure with all the innocence of her 5 years. "Hi, Mr. Lifeguard," she called out. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. But I could have sworn I saw its head turn, ever so slightly, in our direction. We stayed for a while longer, building sandcastles and chasing the receding tide. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, I called to the kids. "Time to pack up," I shouted over the wind that had picked up. One by one, they trudged back, sand-covered and happy. All except Lily. My heart started to race. "Lily?" I called out, scanning the beach. Nothing. "Lily?" I screamed, panic rising in my throat like bile. We searched frantically, calling her name until our voices were hoarse. Other beachgoers joined in, combing the shoreline, but there was no sign of her. As night fell, the police arrived. Flashlights danced across the sand, and a helicopter thundered overhead. Through it all, I couldn't shake the image of that lifeguard chair, that silent figure watching over us. Or had it been watching Lily? I broke away from the group, stumbling towards the tower, but as I got closer, my blood ran cold. The chair was empty, and not just empty, it was old, weathered, falling apart. No one could have been sitting there. It was impossible. That's when I saw it, a small pink flip-flop half buried in the sand at the base of the tower. Lily's shoe. I fell to my knees, my scream piercing the night air. Days turned into weeks. Search parties combed the area, Divers explored the waters, but Lily had vanished without a trace. And always, that lifeguard chair stood sentinel on the beach, a silent reminder of what we'd lost. It wasn't until months later that we learned the truth. An old-timer at a local bar, his eyes clouded with memory, told us the story. Years ago, a young lifeguard had failed to save a child from drowning. Consumed by guilt, he'd taken his own life in that very tower. The beach had been closed, the chair decommissioned, but locals swore they still saw him sometimes, keeping his eternal vigil. I don't know if I believe in ghosts. I do not know if that spectral lifeguard took my Lily or if it was just a cruel twist of fate. But I do know this. Every sunset I find myself drawn back to that beach. And sometimes, just sometimes, I see a figure in that chair, watching the waves. And I wonder, is it watching for Lily too? The ocean holds many secrets, they say, but none so painful as the one it took from me that day. So if you ever find yourself on Moonstone Beach as the sun goes down, and you see a figure in that old lifeguard chair, don't wave, don't call out. Just hold your loved ones close and remember, not all those who watch over us have our best interests at heart. I never thought a simple dare would turn into the most terrifying night of my life. It was just supposed to be a bit of fun, you know? Explore the old boardwalk, maybe get a few spooky thrills. But now, God, I can't even think about it without my hands shaking. It was a muggy summer night in Jersey, the kind where the air feels thick enough to chew. Me and my friends, Jake, Lizzie, and Mike, we were bored out of our minds. That's when Jake got this brilliant idea to check out the condemned boardwalk. It'll be an adventure, he said. If only we'd known. The wood creaked under our feet as we made our way down the dilapidated structure. The salty air mixed with the musty smell of decay, making my nose wrinkle. Shadows danced in the moonlight, playing tricks on our eyes. I swear I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. But when I turned, nothing. Guys, I don't like this, Lizzie whispered, her voice trembling. I wanted to agree, to suggest we turn back, but my pride wouldn't let me. We were already halfway down the boardwalk when we heard it, a low, eerie moan that seemed to come from beneath our feet. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. We all froze, staring at each other with wide eyes. That's when it happened. Mike took a step back and suddenly, he was gone. 1 second he was there and the next, nothing but a gaping hole where a rotting plank had given way. We rushed to the edge, peering into the darkness below. "Mike!" I screamed, my voice echoing in the night. But there was no answer. We could see a tunnel stretching out beneath the boardwalk, swallowed by shadows. Jake was already lowering himself down, determined to find Mike. But something held me back. A chill ran down my spine and I just knew, we shouldn't go down there. "We need help," I said, grabbing Jake's arm. "We can't do this alone." Reluctantly, he agreed. We ran back, our feet pounding against the weathered wood, our hearts racing even faster. It felt like hours before we returned with the police and rescue team. But when we got there, I couldn't believe my eyes. The hole was gone, not just covered up or repaired, but completely vanished, as if it had never existed. We tried to explain, to show them where it had been, but they looked at us like we were crazy. "There's no tunnel here, kids," one officer said, shining his flashlight on the solid planks beneath our feet. "Never has been." But I know what I saw. We all do. Mike was there one moment and gone the next, swallowed by a tunnel that no longer exists. And now he's just gone. Vanished under the boardwalk, leaving nothing but questions and a gnawing fear that keeps me up at night. I can't help but wonder, what if we'd gone down there? Would we have found Mike, or would we have disappeared too? Sometimes in my nightmares, I see that tunnel stretching out endlessly, dark and hungry. And I hear Mike calling for help, his voice getting fainter and fainter until it's swallowed by the silence. They say the boardwalk is haunted. I used to laugh at stories like that. Now I'm not so sure, because something happened that night, something I can't explain. And somewhere out there, Mike is still missing. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back on that boardwalk. I can smell the salt air, feel the rotting wood beneath my feet, and I wonder, what secrets are hidden beneath those planks? What forces are at work that can make a person and an entire tunnel vanish without a trace? I don't have answers. I'm not sure I want them, but I do know one thing. I'll never set foot on that boardwalk again. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, some doors better left unopened, because sometimes the unknown isn't just scary, it's downright terrifying. So if you're ever in Jersey and you hear about a haunted boardwalk, do yourself a favor. Stay away, because you never know what might be lurking beneath those weathered planks, waiting to pull you into a darkness from which there's no return.